Hello everyone, my name is Loko and welcome to some more StarCraft 2 Legacy of the Void. Today I want to be talking about Lurkers in Zerg vs Zerg and most importantly how to transition towards the Lurkers, because that's honestly the main thing. When you are playing Roach versus Roach, the transition towards Lurkers is very difficult to figure out, and I think I got something pretty reasonable right here, or at the very least something that you should be able to work with in the current state of the Legacy of the Void expansion. So basically, the Lurker deals with everything on the ground, easy peasy. The basic idea behind the unit is that it's basically, it's hiding underground and it deals a lot of splash damage in a line forward. Now, obviously, that line forward alone is not going to do very much, but if you have like 6 of them and you can like create a little arc, you will be able to hit pretty much everything that the opponent is going for. Now, on top of that, Lurkers deal bonus damage against armored unit, such as the Roach. So as soon as you are fighting like Roach versus Roach and one of the players manages to get out, like a sizable amount of Lurkers, so let's say like 3 or 4 Lurkers or so, they will get a massive upper hand in every single engagement. And on top of that, you can easily defend, any kind of aggression. Let's say, I have this base taken right here, my opponent tries to move up. I have a couple of Lurkers sitting on top of this ramp. There's no Roach that is gonna ever enter this area. And while the Zerg vs Zerg meta has been transitioning a little bit towards more Mutalisks play, not something I really want to be focusing on in this video at all. So we'll cover that in another one. So if you are interested in that, chat, or if you're interested in that, make sure to stick around by hitting that subscribe button down below. But anyways, so the basic idea is that Lurkers are insanely good, however they're extremely expensive, and most of the time in Zerg vs Zerg you see like back and forth Roach aggression all the time. So getting the Lurker out is kind of difficult, right? Like, how do you transition towards a unit that's very expensive, takes forever to build, and needs like a very specific building and then a morph time and all that sort of stuff as well? How do you make that? So the basic idea behind it is to deal aggression while you're droning up, and then immediately at the same time also get the Hydralisk den going, morph that one into a Lurker den, and then make a couple of Hydras and transition those towards Lurkers. But I'll go over that a little bit more in depth. So for the most part, early on in this video, I am going to be playing very standard. I'm just going to be doing a little bit of Zergling aggression, getting my Zergling speed up, ensuring that I obviously get my my Baneling Nest, and that I eventually go for that Roach timing attack that everyone and his dog is doing. And then we go for that transition towards the Lurker. So early on you won't really see very much tricky shenanigans at all. I'm not exactly sure how high of a skill level my opponent has right here. He is gonna fall behind in supply relatively early on, but that also is a little bit deceiving because he sticks around on Zerglings for a while longer. But either way, this should be a good example on how things how things turn out to be. So early on, I'm just going to be talking about exactly the thought process and, what the hell is going on right now. So right now, I know for a fact that I want to transition towards Roaches already. That is my go-to strategy and what I am most comfortable with and what I've been playing for, like, I think it's been years. It's been a very long time. So I'm doing a little bit of scouting early on, trying to figure out what my opponent is going for. Right here, I notice, okay, Baneling Nest, Spinecrawler, very standard. I know for a fact right now that there's a big chance that my opponent is going to be playing defensive right here. He shouldn't really be making the Spinecrawler if he plans on being offensive, but that also could be a bit of a mind game. And I do end up making a couple of Zerglings because, I want to do a little bit of aggression to my opponent either way. Now, immediately behind this though, you can see me following this up with more and more drones. I'm really not going all in with it at all. Just making a couple of Zerglings, dealing with what's going on. And I actually scouted a bunch of his units come to my side of the map, so I know that that is going to be a pretty big deal here as well. And in the meantime, while I got these Zerglings out, I'm going to start transitioning towards my lair. So I got my lair going up, got my Evo chamber going up, and very shortly I will be able to start my Roach Warren as well. Now, in the meantime, I'm still making only drones, ensuring that I get the economy lead that way, and I'm gonna try and do a bit of aggression with the units that I got. Very shortly, I do want to transition towards that Roach Warren as well, and then I also want to be going for, a third base in a little bit. So I'm just trying to poke in a little bit, see if I can do some damage. Looks like he has a little bit more Zerglings than I do, so, we're just making mainly drones behind this, getting some extra gases going, really the usual. Most of you will probably be aware of this. Very standard, you see this in Heart of the Swarm as well. Now, obviously, once we hit, well, I've tried to get a big boom right here. Not quite what we were looking for. But very shortly, I will finish up the lair. I will be going for the +1 missile upgrade, and I will also be going for the Glio Reconstitution, which is Roach Speed. And at the same time, I will be switching towards that third base. And at that point, I will start making non-stop Roaches, do a bit of a timing attack against my opponent, right when Roach Speed and +1 attack you know, follow or like finish up. So those two upgrades right here, they will finish up at the exact same time or roughly around the same time, which means you can do a nice bit of aggression. At the moment, I do have that third base going up slightly before my opponent, which is nice. And I'm just gonna try and pick off an overlord right here that he's using for scouting. Really no big deal at all. And, you know, you can see, right now I start getting a little bit ahead in the supply count. I'm not exactly sure why that is. I think it's because my opponent may have just mismacroed a little bit early on. And you can see I got significantly more workers than him. And that obviously does come into play. But I will be able to start making non-stop roaches. Gonna move over the spine crawler towards the third base as well. So as you can see, early on, everything is completely normal. Now, whereas in the past, or in Heart of the Swarm, you would usually transition from roaches into more and more roaches, you now actually can transition towards multiple things. So for example, a switch to Hydralisk is actually viable, simply because, you know, both of the upgrades are now combined, so it becomes a lot easier to get there. On top of that, you know, you can also transition to Lurkers, which is my go-to right now. And, you know, you just have a couple of different options. So that third base is finished up. I made a couple of extra workers for it. But here is where the transition really starts happening. So +1 attack will finish up momentarily. Roach speed just finished up as well. And I'm immediately running across the map. Now behind this, I'm making a couple more roaches. However, very shortly, I want to be going for the Hydra Den. I want to be going for Hydra Den, +2 attack, more and more gases, and just, you know, there we go, by the way, Hydra Den going down, and I'm not exactly sure what my opponent's going for, so I got the spore. But I'm gonna go for the Hydra Den immediately, gonna start up more and more gases at the third base very shortly as well, and then just trying to do as much damage as I possibly can here to my opponent. Just being annoying, but in the meantime, you know, I'm really not making that many units behind it. I know that I have the economy lead right now. I at least got a couple of workers at my third base. And I know that he doesn't. So I'm going to start making more and more workers here. Now, very shortly, once I have a reasonable amount of drones at my third base, I will be able to go for the gases right there as well. And you can see I made the Hydra Den when I moved out with my Roach army. And when the Hydra Den finished up, I immediately started morphing it into a Lurker Den. So the Lurker Den is already on its way. Now, while the Lurker Den is on its way, you can actually, as a Zerg player, immediately switch to watch a couple of Hydralisks as well. And I would highly recommend you put those on a separate hotkey. So right now you can see I am producing 6 Hydralisks, putting those on hotkey number 2. And at that point, once I'm making the Hydralisk, I'm gonna stop making any kind... I'm gonna stop making really very much of anything. And I want to try and get as much gas as possible. I want to try and get the gas going because I know for a fact that the, you know, the Lurkers are gonna cost me like another 125 gas, I think it is, per Hydralisk. Oh, it's 100 gas. Okay, 50 minerals, 100 gas right there for each individual one. So I need to get a lot of gas going right now in order to morph those in. But when you can use a lot of gas, it obviously means that you will start piling up a lot of minerals. So usually the correct approach is to actually switch into a bunch of static defense as well. So you can see I added on a bunch more roaches as well, just for defensive purposes. And I'm just sitting back. I want to try and morph in the Lurkers, which I can very shortly. And I can start adding on some static defense because I know for a fact that I will be flooding minerals. So here we go, Lurkers on the way. Now this is the most scary moment right here, where you always need to be a little bit careful about whether or not your opponent counterattacks. But as soon as those workers are out, you're safe against pretty much everything. So here's what happened, right? Let me try and rephrase that once again. +1 attack finished up, Roach speed finished up. I moved out across the map like I always do with my Roach Hydra ball. While I was doing that, I put down the Hydra Den, put down the extra gases at the third base, I morphed in the Lurker Den as soon as I possibly could, added on the gases right here and, you know, put the drones in the gases, made a couple more workers, and then when I noticed, okay, I got my Hydralisk out, I will be able to start morphing those into Lurkers very shortly, I will start adding on the static defense just to ensure victory that way, and I get my Hydralisk, you know, morphed into Lurkers, and there will be sitting around. Now, usually you want to have them spread out at least a little bit, so he can't just jump you. But at this point, you know, if he wants to move up this ramp, there's no way. If he wants to move up through the middle, also absolutely no way. Now, in the meantime, I'm ensuring that I also get a couple more upgrades going right now, and I'm gonna move out right when those upgrades finish. So I already have +2 attack done. I started that a little bit before, you know, the +1 armor. So armor will be finishing up, and at that point, I have a beautiful timing attack. In the meantime, I'm also getting the muscular augments upgrade right here for the Hydralisk because, you know, I'm still going Roach, Hydra, Lurker. So very shortly, we'll be moving across the map, getting that fort base going as well, just to ensure that I will get the gas that I need. I'm gonna make as many units as I possibly can, reinforcing with Hydralisks and with Roaches as well, and I'm gonna be moving forward. Now, you gotta be a little careful with Lurkers. You don't want to just, you know, headbutt just like that. They do have, you know, quite a bunch of health, but if you can get an engagement off like this, it is honestly very, very, very straightforward. Ideally, you know, this engagement would not have been this way, and my opponent decides to say, GG scrub, for whatever reason. I don't know if he was joking or if he was for real. You know, we managed to get the victory right there. So it all really comes down to getting those gases going, morphing in the Lurker Den as soon as you possibly can when you move out. So you get the Hydra Den, then immediately morph in the Lurker Den, get a couple Hydras going, and stay safe with a couple of spines and spores in the meantime, depending on the army comp your opponent is going for. But a couple of spines and spores while you're waiting for the Lurkers to come out, and once they come out, push as soon as upgrades finish up. Hope this was a helpful video for you guys, for those of you that are playing at a relatively high level in the Legacy of the Void beta as well. If you did enjoy the video, hit the like button down below. If you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button as well, so you'll get a notification as soon as I upload another one. And I want to thank you guys all for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, and I'll see you in the next one.